Okay, I'm gonna be honest with y'all real quick. This video was supposed to go up weeks ago, but I recorded it, and while I was editing it, I didn't really like how it was coming out. I just felt like my energy was really off in the video. I think I recorded it on a day that I was just really tired. So overall, I just decided to scrap the video and re-record it later when I had more time. So here it is. Hi. If you noticed at all that there was like a random week in the month that I didn't upload a video, it is probably because this was the video that was supposed to go in that spot. So you're getting it now, hopefully, if I end up preferring this one. So yeah, something that I get asked a lot as a training therapist, especially from people who kind of know my personal history, know kind of everything I've been through, is how do I provide therapy to people who are dealing with really like heavy, traumatic, distressing things in their life and like not have it impact my own mental health. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it is not easy. I have had some really difficult clients in the past year and a half of my training. I currently, now that I think about it, have some clients who are dealing with some really difficult things that I'm like trying to help them work through. And it has been a real like process and learning curve to figure out how to not take my clients' problems home with me after every session. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I kind of started taking steps before I even got to my PhD program to make sure that I was in the right headspace to be able to deal with the problems that I knew my clients would be coming with. And I feel like if you are someone who is thinking about or has decided to pursue a career in clinical psychology, that these are some steps that I think everyone should do, like at some point in your clinical training. And I don't want to come off like super preachy, but I just thought it would be helpful to talk about some of these things. These are just the things that I did to help me mentally and emotionally prepare for my program that I've realized that had I not, I probably would not be able to manage everything that comes with a clinical psych PhD program. So yeah, let's just jump right in. Hey, hello, my name is Jojo and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome. Okay, so the first thing I did was see a therapist. So quick little backstory, because I honestly at this point cannot remember how much of this I have shared on my channel. I think I've kind of like sprinkled in bits here and there throughout my videos. But for those who don't know or have not watched all of my videos, I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and recurrent episodes of mild depression. And I have been dealing with various aspects of those for most of my life. I would say like starting late childhood, early adolescence-ish. And so when I graduated undergrad and decided that I was going to pursue clinical psychology, I knew that I was going to have to get help for myself before I could take that next step. And so I started going to therapy. And I can say now that it was probably the best decision of my life. But this was like before the PhD program. Like this was before I started my master's program that I started going to therapy. Because even though I didn't, think that I would be starting to see clients in my master's program, I still knew that mentally I needed to be in a better place in order to handle the course load that came with a graduate program. And part of getting into a better space mentally meant getting into a better space emotionally. So I started therapy shortly before my master's program and pretty much continued throughout my master's program. And so by the time I started my PhD program and started seeing clients of my own, I was able to sit in a 45-minute session and actually be able to provide the support that that person needed in those moments. And this is extremely important because if you have so much going on in your own life and in your own head that you cannot focus on anything else, then there's almost no way that you'll be able to sit across from a client for 45 minutes while they are, you know, talking about their own problems and crying and falling apart in a session with you. Like, it's just gonna be too much. And that's not to say you have to have like everything figured out. Like, I am definitely still dealing with my own shit. Y'all saw last semester, I almost completely fell apart. And so I am in the process of looking for a new therapist because I have new stuff coming up that I now need to work through. And even if you aren't someone who feels like you have problems that, you know, warrant needing a therapist or something like that, I would still encourage that you start seeing a therapist, because it's just nice to have that space that you know is dedicated to you if you ever need support for anything. Just even if just like you need a quick like release of whatever has been building up inside of you. Like, having that is just such a relief, you know? And there are some PhD programs that require their students to be in therapy. I'm not sure how common it is, but I have heard of a few, so I know they're out there. And that is because it is that important for you to have a clear headspace when you are with your clients. But also, I recognize that therapy is not for everyone, so I'm not gonna sit here and preach and be one of those people who are like, you need therapy, you need therapy, you need therapy. I'm not gonna do that. But if you haven't tried it, 10 out of 10, I definitely recommend you give it at least a shot. The second thing I did was start learning how to set boundaries and stick to them. If you're in therapy, ooh, was that my chair? Jeez. If this chair falls apart while I'm sitting on it, I'm going to cry. If you are already in therapy or you plan to go to therapy, then this is definitely something that will probably come up at some point during your treatment. But if you're not in therapy and you don't plan on going to therapy, then boundary setting is something that you're going to have to learn how to do, like if it's not something you're already comfortable with. And I mean specifically like emotional boundary setting. If you are going into a clinical psychology doctoral program, then you are guaranteed to have clients that are going to push your limits emotionally. You are going to have clients that you feel absolutely drained by. You are going to have clients that give you so much energy, you feel like you could run a marathon. You're gonna have clients that push your boundaries and try to find out personal information about you that you might not be comfortable with sharing. You're going to have clients that you feel super protective over, like you wanna just put them in your back pocket and take them home with you. And you are going to have clients that you do not like. And through all of those feelings, you are still going to have to sit in front of that client every week and listen to them for 45 minutes. And so before you even start working with your first client, it is very important that you sit down with yourself and you create emotional boundaries for yourself. So deciding what you are and aren't okay with sharing if a client asks you information about yourself, deciding how you might respond if a client discloses to you their personal feelings about you, if they like you, if they love you, if they like care about you, if they hate you. You got to be prepared for all of that. So just thinking about how it might feel to have a client say that to you and how you might respond. How are you going to react if a client starts yelling at you in a session and they start cussing you out? It hasn't happened to me, but I've heard that it happens. So that's something I've had to think about, you know? Thinking about how you might manage if you're in a session with a client and they trigger something for you, whether that is like a really emotional response and you start crying in session with them, or they say something that like really makes you angry because it doesn't fully align with your own morals in some way. Like those are really like emotionally intense situations that you are guaranteed to come across when you start working with clients. And so it's really important to start thinking about how you might handle those situations and what you are and aren't okay with. Creating emotional boundaries is also important because it will help prevent you from leaving a session and feeling like you're carrying the weight of your client on your shoulders. I used to have a client where I left every session literally feeling like I couldn't get through the rest of my day because of how tired I was. And so I learned very quickly what it was about that client that was having an effect on me. And I, talked through some stuff in my own supervision that helped me process all of that. And I was able to work through it. So again, emotional boundaries, so very important. And finally, the third thing I did was build a really strong support system for myself. I have a whole video on my channel dedicated to building your support system both before and during your graduate program, and I will put that somewhere on the screen. Feel free to watch it if you want to, but I think going into a graduate program, it is really important that you know who you can depend on. Before I started my master's program, again, going all the way back to my master's program, so before I even got to my PhD program, I did a really serious overview of my support system, my support network. I had to be really honest with myself that not everyone who was in my life at the time was going to be able to be there for me if I needed them, because grad school is not easy. It's very emotionally taxing. It's very mentally taxing. Again, as y'all saw last semester, we're not gonna talk about it. But knowing that those hard times were bound to come eventually, I needed to know who I was going to be able to call and when. So again, if you're in therapy or you plan to start therapy, this is something that you can definitely talk about with your therapist. My therapist helped me do this. And really, we just created like a social network map for myself and went through each person on the map and kind of talked through what role they currently played in my life, what role I wanted them to play in my life, if I wanted them to play a role in my life at all, and how I could have a conversation with them to determine how possible that would be, because that's also important. It's not just about having a support network, it's also talking to the people in your support network to make sure that they also feel like they can support you, because if they feel like they can't, then you should listen to that. No, I'm kidding. But it's really important to know who plays what role in your support network and who you can lean on in what times of stress and chaos and all of that, so that when those stressful, chaotic moments happen while you're actually in your program, you have no question about where to go, who to call, and you don't feel like you're just dealing with it on your own. And as you go through your program, your support network will change, it will grow, it might shrink, who knows, but at the end of the day, you'll know who you have, and that's all that matters. All right, so there it is. Those are the few things that I did before and still currently during my program to make sure that I am mentally and emotionally prepared to see clients every other day. Again, I am not perfect, so I am still struggling with some of these things. Like I said, I am currently looking for a new therapist because I have some things I need to talk about. I have to reflect and remind myself of my emotional boundaries with my clients all the time, because I'm a very emotional person and I feel everything. And I'm also like dealing with changes in my support network that I am learning to be okay with. So all of these things are going to be a continuous process throughout your program, but I feel like it's really important to start working on them before you even get to your program in the first place, just so that you can start with as clear of a head and mind as possible, because I feel like that's the best state of mind to be in when you are literally helping other people with their problems. But yeah, with that being said, thank you for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I truly appreciate it. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and click that little notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. And I'll see you in my next one.